Oink time.
Hi.
Uncle Benny and Auntie Jen are back.
We're
boys
back
and girls.
after a how many month hiatus?
No, it's just been a week, Benny, since the last one.
Okay,
but
right.
Oink time's back.
Feels like an eternity.
Woo! We're in Sean's new studio. It's awesome. We're feeling Ben.
Sorry.
Jesus.
Sorry.
We're in Sean's new studio.
I smoked a lot over the
Ben! We're in Sean's new studio. It's
great.
fantastic.
It's a good one.
Today we have the awesome Michael Hing.
Holy shit, our friend, comedian Michael Hing is running for the Senate.
What?
The Australian Senate.
One Asian party.
And
Vote
we have
for
the
him.
full scoop on today's ep.
If we're allowed to air this, it will be out very soon. Hing's going to let us know. We need to vote for him, oneasianparty.com. It's going to be great. Listen in. This is Oink Time, and today's word is politics.
Something evolved in me recently, though, because, like, do you have a lot of physical self-consciousness?
I mean, yeah. Are we recording this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I think I do.
But we can start it.
No, there's no, like, you don't grow up as an Asian kid in the Sutherland Shire and not have a lot of weird body issues.
No, seriously, but does that extend to, like, body shame issues?
Illawong, right?
Yeah, I grew up in. Are you from Illawong as well? No.
I'm from Bengal.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
It's so strange. Yeah.
What is that,
It's
like
like
butt
Illawong.
fuck country?
What are these places?
So Illawong is
What is an Illawong?
suburb. Illawong is a suburb of Sydney that, like, 30 years ago, or whatever, was basically like, I don't know, half of it was farmland and
Bush.
there's like bush and that. Now it's like there's like blocks of flats and stuff. It's basically just a suburb of Sydney. But back when I grew up there, it was probably a little bit more regional. And it's very, very white. And yeah. But in terms of body shame issues, my goodness, I remember when I was in like year 2, we did our BMIs, and a healthy BMI is like, I don't know, what is it, 18 to 25 or something?
never
I
been
don't
a
know.
healthy BMI. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, I remember my BMI was something like 14 or something. Like, it was like malnourished, weedy, tiny little kid.
Yeah, skin and bones.
Like just the most, and you know, everyone else in the class was like within the healthy range.
Chesty Bond, home and away bodies. Yeah.
These like these kids who like all grew up doing nippers and everything else, and I was just
Bond's
like this
underwear models.
sickly nerd child, and it then kind of like it became a joke that it was like I was like a skinny Asian kid kind of thing. And
So,
like,
so the weediness was a byproduct of your Asianness.
kind of, yeah.
So the Asianness causes body
it's
shame.
like, it's like if there's only like 3 Asian kids in the class, right? And one of them happens to be a skinny, weedy kid. Then kids just interpret that as like, oh, well, that's what Asians are. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because
yeah.
I mean, and I'm not trying to judge them or anything because they're kids, so who the fuck knows?
Yeah, you
I
can
would have
judge them, it's fine.
I would have made the exact same, you know, judgments about some. I imagine I would have had the exact same fucked brain.
if you were some hot home and away member.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like people don't change that much from when they're kids anyway. I feel like people's personalities don't actually grow that much. Like
I mean, I'm still scared. That's
yeah, exactly. Like,
No, I agree with that.
I don't think that much changes.
yeah.
I think you learn to not be as forthcoming with your opinions
Yeah.
in
Well, you
polite
should.
company. Yeah. Isn't that half the fucking struggle of growing up?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think so. I think you hold on to a lot. I don't know.
I don't know. I think there's like, certainly there are things that, I mean, this is like so obvious, but there are, you know, half a dozen moments that you experience as a kid and they range in severity and seriousness and whatever. But those things, you draw direct lines between those things and like how you act nowadays, right? Like, for example, I mean, that's so obvious to say, but like, for example, for me, I remember there was like this like gifted and talented program that, no, humble brag, guys. I got to be in the gifted and talented program. And I remember looking out the window while I was in the gifted and talent program, and my teachers were playing, had the rest of the class out, and they were playing like some game. It was like cars.
Having fun and
like a running game kind of thing. And I said to the teacher who'd taken us for gifted and talented, I was like, oh, this sucks. I want to be out there. Like, not comprehending like what a genuine privilege it would have been to like be picked out and be like, hey, you're really smart or whatever.
Yeah.
And then something I've remembered is like she didn't say like, oh, he's a child, he doesn't know what the fuck he wants or needs.
Yeah.
She said to me, oh, well, if you don't want to be here, then just go. Right? I was like 7.
Please tell me you stood up
Wow.
and left.
Yeah, and I was like, okay.
Yes.
And then I remember walking out, right, and then she was like, and then as I was walking, she walked me out of the room with her and to the teachers, and then she said to my other teacher, Michael doesn't want to be in the in thinking groups anymore. He wants to play with you. And then,
He don't want to be gifted and talented anymore. He wants to hang out with you, plebeians.
Yeah, well, I didn't fucking know what was going on. And then my other teacher said to me, well, Michael, I think you should apologize to, I think her name was Mrs. Derwent. Mrs. Phillips said to me, I think you should apologize to Mrs. Derwent. And I was like, all right, I'm sorry for not. And then I was never in a gifted and talented group ever again.
I'm sorry for not acknowledging my privilege.
I didn't fucking, but as a kid, you don't know.
sake.
But now, every time I ever have some sort of opportunity like that, or whatever thrust on me, like if someone's like, oh, you're good at this thing or whatever, I have this innate thing of like, oh, well, I need to grab onto this. I need to hold on to it and I can't let it go because not letting go, like letting go of that is like, you know, is mean or whatever. It's not appreciative.
So are you saying that you pursue certain opportunities not because they're necessarily good for you, but because you're afraid of letting down the person
absolutely.
that offered
100%.
you? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Really?
Yeah. My goodness.
Is that what this fucking Senate run is about? Is that what happened? That you're like, I'm going to be a senator, and now that people are actually taking it seriously, you feel shanghaied into actually carrying through with it?
Like honestly, yeah. Like I don't know. It's gotten out of control, and I don't know. I don't know. Like I was texting my friend tonight about it, and I said to him like it's like a ride, and I want to get off, and I can't get off, and I don't know what to do. Like it's so fucked.
It reminds me of, you know, that Simpsons gag where Bart sticks the toffee apples to his feet to get onto the roller coaster, and then the bar shuts over his head. No.
So I guess we should probably back up and give some context to this.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know the context. I don't know if you do.
Okay, so Michael Hing.
Like I saw you at a gig.
hello.
I saw you at a gig last week, and there was rumor abound that you have created the One Asian Party, and you're running as a legitimate campaign to be an Australian senator. And I don't know anything
I've never
more than that.
MC'd and gone, give it up for Michael Hing, vote One Asian. Like I've never had to
Dude,
chuck
can you
that
imagine
in
being
before.
MC and being like, "Welcome to the stage, Senator Michael Hing."
Fucked. Okay, so as a quick explainer, this is the first time I've had to explain it, so I don't know how this is going to go. But for international listeners, there is a right wing racist party in Australia called One Nation that's led by a person called Pauline Hanson, who has sort of spent her career vilifying ethnic minorities.
Everyone.
Indigenous people, Muslims. But when I was growing up, it was Asians. It was like the Asians are coming here to swamp us and take our jobs.
That was her famous quote. We are being swamped by Asians.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
and like, I guess, you know, doing comedy, I've often referenced that kind of thing and talked about it. And so I've been thinking about it for ages. And then maybe a month ago, One Nation, the party, got caught up in an NRA scandal because they were asking for like $10 to $15 million from the NRA, something like that, in order to loosen Australia's gun laws, which is in Australia we're very passionate about our gun laws. You know,
can I just ask, because I'm actually embarrassed about how shamefully little I know about Australian politics. I'm very much taken by the razzle and dazzle of American politics. So I know everything about US politics, but very little about Australia. Is it true that for the last little while there's been a kind of underground effort to
chipping away at the gun laws? Yeah, definitely.
What is the purpose of that? I mean, because it's not part of our constitution or anything.
No, so we don't have a right to bear arms in Australia, but it is money. It's money. Like
it's a huge industry.
Yeah, and people love some kinds of people love shooting guns. They just love shooting guns, and also because we haven't had these horrific shootings to the extent in the last 25 years in Australia that we have elsewhere in the world. People in this region, up until Christchurch happened, kind of felt like, oh, well, maybe our gun laws are too strict. Not general people, but like there was a minority of people.
But also people are lobbying to try and loosen those, and people who are going through life every day hearing, Australia's gun laws are great. Why would you think you even need to look further into it? You're like, yep, we sorted that shit out ages ago. Everyone sent them back and ticked the box. You think nothing changes,
upsetting.
but people who are like gun-toting happy want to chip away at it. But
and the conspiratorial thing, which was up until this point like a conspiracy theory, but now has been like taped and documented in the Al Jazeera documentary about One Nation and the NRA, is that the American gun lobby is putting pressure wants to loosen Australia's gun lobby because every time there's a fucking shooting in America, everyone goes, hey, why don't we copy Australia's gun laws where there are very few mass shootings?
Is this fucking true?
Yeah.
Is this fucking true?
Like you watch the Al Jazeera
How do you
thing.
not know this?
You watch the Al Jazeera thing and literally they have like hidden camera. It's like the fucking Simpsons with like a guy with a camera in his fucking hat and a camera in a fold and a camera in a fucking pencil case.
So we would like mass shootings in Australia so we don't look too bad when...
So America doesn't look too bad. Yeah,
But
it's
also,
fucking wild.
every time there is a mass shooting, gun sales go up. So
of
like
course,
King
the
was
fear
saying,
kicks
it's
in.
just
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
So it's like if they loosen here, the hope is, something like Christchurch happens and then Australians like, maybe I need to protect my
That's how
family.
fucking psychotic you've got to be.
Yeah,
Like, do you realise the
course.
fucking level of fucking insanity?
I think
It's
people
wild.
are just removed from what a gun actually is and what it actually does because they just see it on TV.
This is a little bit of a digression for a second, but
No.
you know the Winchester rifle heiress? You know that whole story?
No.
Oh, so the woman, so the
Oh,
guy,
yes.
the guy that invented the Winchester rifle.
Heard it on Criminal. Great podcast.
Fucking,
What was
I want to go to this house. It sounds fucking incredible. But they made an awful movie starring Helen Mirren about it, but apparently it didn't get into the actual meat
I think it's
of
on
the true
Criminal
story.
Pod.
Oh,
Keep
right.
going.
But she was the widow of the guy that invented the Winchester rifle. And either she went to some weird 1850 seance or she had a revelation or something. But she had this moment where she was like, oh my God, my entire fortune is just blood money. And every dollar I own is because people have just been killing each other for decades.
She's got the house that's now
Yeah,
a
well, that's the
museum.
thing. She
So
built-
it was
yeah.
her father who created the guns, I think.
Oh,
and
right.
so maybe, but when whoever it was, the husband or father died, she was so all consumed with the guilt of how many people had been killed that she kept doing these really crazy extensions on her house because she kept fearing that people were being stuck in limbo and all this kind of stuff. And she essentially made this house that is now a museum that you can
It's a
visit
cryo.
where like there's stairwells that just lead to nothing or there's doors that lead to nothing or
Or
there's
like you'll open a
So
door
she
and go down a
started-
hallway. It's like that Willy Wonka hallway where it'll
Yeah.
suddenly shrink and you can't get through it. or
right.
and there's like, and she would fire the builders every
Yeah.
3 months, so no one knew the full blueprints of this place. They're still finding like side
was-
This
rooms.
is like the
and-
madness of the guilt.
Yeah,
but
so
at least you
tortured,
can admire
so
the fucking
tortured.
guilt. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
Like she's obviously fucking insane, but it's like, well, at least you felt something.
Well, she said she carried all the deaths with
Good.
her. Like it was,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it wasn't her. It was like
No,
her
I know,
partner or
but she's
dad.
still
But anyway,
profit.
yes.
Sorry.
Oh, no. Well, so when this scandal broke with One Nation trying to loosen Australia's gun laws with 15 to 20 or 10, $50 million from the NRA, whatever it was, I work at a show called The Feed on SBS, and we were just pitching funny sketch ideas. And I said, hey, we should do like a parody of One Nation, and it's me doing it. And I just literally all I thought of was One Nation kind of sounds like One Asian. That's basically all I had. It was just a pun.
It's catchy.
That was literally what it was, and I was like, and we could just joke about how fucking dumb these people are, and how ruthless they are, and how amoral they are, and how disgusting it all is, you know. And we'll just refocus it all on, whatever. And we started writing it, and then literally every time we pitched this idea to someone, and we talked to like 6 people throughout the day, they were like, dude, that's so funny, you actually have to run.
Yes.
And so we benched the one Asian joke and then just did the sketch without that.
Yeah.
And then, like, we made this stupid little video. Like,
I've seen it. It's really funny.
yeah, but it's like a 2-minute fake. It's a fake political ad where I'm just saying like there are fat cats in Canberra who are taking your money or something, and then I walk out of the green. There's like an Australian flag waving behind me, and then like I like strip out of my blazer and my shirt, and I'm wearing a T-shirt that says Michael Hing's One Asian Party, and I say I'm launching a new thing, and then we do like these fucking cringy, like ironic, like hero shots of me like staring off into the middle distance, and then like it's just me talking shit.
Yeah,
and,
looking
and
over
walking.
the water.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
And then the final thing is like we probably illegally flew a drone down near Blackwater Bay and Glee, where I don't think you're allowed to fly a drone, and we got this final like beautiful shot of like me staring out into the water and a drone flies over me, and it's like
Awesome.
So we made this video thinking like it's just me launching a party called the One Asian Party because there are so many fucking crazy parties in Australia. Like why can't I have one as well?
Totally.
Yeah.
That's the point of the video. What we didn't realize when we thought, we'll put it up on, like it was probably about 2 weeks ago now, we put it up on the Thursday, thinking like, there's an election coming up, and the conventional wisdom was they were going to call the election on the Monday, right? So 4 days later. What happened though is we put it up at like 7:30 in the morning, and then at like 8:15 or some shit, Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister, calls the election, right? So then every single journalist is like, oh, great, time to go into election mode. Let's press send on all these fucking stories we've already written. And they're like, all right, what's next? What's interesting? What's cool? And then they were like, oh, this fucking comedian's running for the Senate, apparently.
Which in fucking 2019, that story alone is just red meat for, where we are.
We're literally today, I think, or yesterday, was it? A comedian in the Ukraine who played the president on television is now won the presidential election.
He won.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, it really threw the looking
Great
glass
time
at this
to be
shit.
a comedian.
Yeah. Well, wasn't this the fucking the premise of a movie in the mid-90s with Kevin Kline?
I'm sure it's been the premise of like a dozen movies.
Dave or something like that?
Yeah, because I literally thought this would be a little video that, well, our videos usually get like, 10 to 15,000 views or something like that, and then people move on because we make so many of them.
I love that this is sticking.
They just
I'm annoyed you didn't bring us a One Asian shirt because I would wear it with pride.
No, this is how ill-prepared we were for all this fucking attention. I only had one shirt printed. And so I had to start doing, and so literally all these people are calling me, and I think to myself, oh, this is like a funny joke, so I'll just do all these media opportunities, right? And then we think to ourselves, like, fuck, like, what if I actually ran? Like, it started off as a joke, but then it's like, well, like, because the remit of the show we do is like, we're trying to be like a news show with satire, and we're trying to like educate people, and we're like, no one fucking understands this process. Like, no one understands all the backroom deals that happen, all the dodgy fucking money that happens, all this stuff. So why don't I just go through it and see how far I can get?
And also how easy it is, you said.
Yeah.
Like how anyone can literally be like, I think I'm going to run.
Yeah.
Well, this is. Remember when fucking Michael Moore ran a ficus for Senate, or like 25 years ago on
it's
the Awful
exactly
Truth?
the same. Yeah. So in Australia, it costs $2,000 to register, which, given that the election cycle is like three and a bit years, that's like $2 a day.
Yeah,
that's what it costs.
So
if you start saving now, if you want to run the next election, put away $2 a day now, and you can do that, right? Literally anyone can do this.
Great fucking. All right, no, keep going.
And so that day I had like probably, I think the video just blew up because everyone was talking about the election. It wasn't like we didn't anticipate this, and then I started getting phone calls from like, just like radio stations and newspapers and stuff.
Unbelievable.
So initially it got picked up by like Junkie and Pedestrian, which they cover our show a lot. They're youth media. That's fine. Then the next big thing was The Independent in the UK wrote about it. Lad Bible picked it up. The Australian Financial Review. Which, and I'm gonna be honest, Lad Bible. The views on Lad Bible are fucking out of this world. Like Lad Bible's fucking huge, right? So
you're obviously getting some reach. May I say, you and I were talking about this at the pub the other day, and halfway through the conversation, this guy just walks up, double takes, and points at you and just goes, "One Asian!" And out of any kind of legit, the fact that we were talking about it at the time was hysterical. But man, that comment taken out of any kind of context, like, whoa, what the fuck? If this happened in certain suburbs of Sydney, you wouldn't think of that as a cute, affectionate comment.
Joke. Yeah,
so funny.
So that Thursday, I was talking to my friend Ellie, who kind of helped me make the videos and do a lot of the little graphical work we'd done for just some little Facebook stuff. And I said to her, I was like, okay, let's see how far we can get this. Wouldn't it be great if we got on the project? Because like I've never been on the project before, and like say what you will about it. It's like
oh, they've got a huge reach.
It's like the project is like, I think comedians look at it and be like, well, it's not really quite a comedy show.
No.
And and often comedians go on that show and have really frustrating times because the audience is so broad that it's really hard to do, right? Yeah, totally. But I think a lot of the actual journalism they do is like pretty good. Like they break stories in a way that like sometimes at the feed we look at them like, wow, that's a pretty good story. So
yeah, and they're able to deliver messages to the masses in a way that other people can't.
Exactly.
Like they're able to speak to a big audience.
Yeah. So I think to myself like, what's the funniest thing for this? Where's the funniest place for this joke? And it's the project, right? Because it's like me making fun of like middle Australian voters who are like, or not probably like far right voters. Like I shouldn't say middle Australia, but like far right voters. And like,
don't cut down your.
And a lot of
don't make Hillary Clinton's mistake.
A lot of those people like watch the project because they want to hate watch it because it's hosted by Walid Ali, who's like Australiaa's probably most prominent Muslim person, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself like, where's the best place for this joke to go? Probably the project. I can't think of. So I think to myself, right, Ellie, let's start emailing the project like every day and pitch me every day, right? 45 minutes later, after we had this conversation, a producer from the project calls me and she's like, hey, we just saw your video. We love it. And we'd love to have you on tomorrow. And I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
Dude, I can really see this snowballing out of my control.
Hope it does.
I really hope it does too. But
so that was last Friday. And then the media coverage since then has just blown up. They invited me back last week. So last week I was down in Melbourne. So the first one I recorded from like a satellite box. Then I was on the desk last Friday to do it. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, the whole time during this, the awkwardness of it is that my eligibility to be a Senate candidate, even though, admittedly, my whole platform is I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm doing, I just think it'd be funny if I'm a senator. Like, that's the whole thing, right?
Yeah, it'd be great.
My eligibility has been in question because there's the part of the Constitution that says whether or not you can be a senator is Section 44, right? And that says you can't be a senator if you are a dual citizen, if you've ever been bankrupt, and there's a few other things.
Right.
And that's what we recently went through in Australia.
Are we going to start paying attention to that shit now?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
come on.
So
They haven't cared in the past.
So last parliamentary cycle, I think it was like 20 or something, parliamentarians got booted out because it was revealed they were all dual citizens.
Yes.
What is the purpose of that you could have allegiance to the other country?
I imagine
that you're a
so,
citizen
but this
of?
was written like 120 years ago.
course,
So it's at a time when there's probably, nationalism was probably at higher than it is now. It was less of a globalist world.
Yeah.
So one of the things in the Constitution there is you cannot have an office under the Crown, which has prevented people who work, which has previously prevented people who say are like work for the Treasury or work as a public servant, that kind of thing.
Yeah, any public servant.
What is the reason for that?
It's because it's a conflict of interest because you work for the Crown and then you get elected. And it could be seen that the government is trying to get their own, the government, the Commonwealth, is trying to get their own people in order to
their own agenda,
solidify the power of the Commonwealth kind of thing, right?
All right, yep.
So it makes sense for that rule to exist.
Yeah.
It's never been tested as to whether or not someone like me, a contractor who works for a production company that has a contract with SBS, if that counts. That's never been tested in the courts.
Because SBS could have an interest in having their own person.
Exactly, because SBS is like...
government funded.
Yeah, government funded, right? So that's never been tested. So my eligibility is in question over that, right? But the thing is, when you submit your papers to the Australian Electoral Commission, which I think the deadline is tomorrow, so this is like, we're like at the 11th hour of when this is going to happen, you've got to hand deliver it to the AEC. Like, you've got to go with, like, you can't digitally do it. Yeah, you've got to go in there with $2,000 and like a stack of papers. So I've got the money. I've got the
some gangster shit.
I mean, don't rob me, but I've got the money in my car. I filled out all the paperwork.
Hey, can I get a lift home here?
And I'm like, we're going to go there tomorrow and try and register. So that's when we find out if it's like real or not, basically. And we've got a bunch of phone calls with the Electoral Commission and stuff tomorrow to find out how eligible I am. But
that's insane.
At worst, this will have been a failed or a very successful publicity stunt for your comedy career. And at best, you're going to be an Australian fucking senator.
I know. But also it highlights that the only thing stopping Hing from being a senator is the fact that he's been contracted to work at SBS like one time.
Yes.
Like that's the only hurdle.
Like just to put this in context, right? You need a license in New South Wales to be a real estate agent. But you require no qualifications to be a senator. It's like be 18, never be bankrupt, and don't have dual citizenship.
I don't know. What do you think about that though? Because there's like because I was reading this thing about maybe ancient Greece. I don't know, one of the early democracies where it was like pure democracy, where it was like every 3 months or something, they just randomly select 5 people and they're like, you're the king, you're the king, you're the king.
Yeah.
Figure it out. And 3 months later, you're fired. And obviously it was, this idea of pure democracy did not exist in ancient Greece because they were all nobility and they were all men blah, 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 blah. But, for whatever it is just randomly selected.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so divided because there's a part of me that think that's a great idea that, it should be kind of citizen-run democracy, but there also needs to be some standard, right?
Well, I've been thinking about this a lot the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
because the idea of me being a federal senator, like, terrifies me. Because I know how smart I am, I know how dumb I am, and I'm like, there's loads of things I don't understand, right? Like currently there is a scandal going on in the Australian Parliament about something called water buybacks, where the government apparently spent $80 million trying to buy water from a company that was registered in the Cayman Islands. Dodgy
crap.
Yeah, and I've read the first couple of paragraphs of those stories, and I'm like, I don't fucking understand this, right? So I recognize that there are things above my pay grade in the Senate, but
can I just say, neither does Pauline.
Well,
you know what I mean? Like,
that's the fucking
most
truth,
of them don't know what's happening. Like, most of them I don't think know. They're just great at posturing.
The leader of the free world doesn't know. He has to have things boiled down into paragraphs with pictures.
This is my point.
They're like comics in that they just learn how to not show fear and act as if they know what's happening. People spit out all this stuff and they're like, well, I'd like to object.
Yeah.
Why? because there's an Asian person in the room. Like that's Pauline's entire fucking thing, right?
So a lot of that institutional knowledge is held by public servants who like spend their lives being bureaucrats and learning about this stuff and being like, oh, this is how this deal should work. This is the kind of pricing we should do on this, right? And the ministers and the politicians really are just the front end load of that kind of
the face.
Yeah, the face of it all, right? So they just need to be able to communicate this kind of thing. The couple of things I just run through a couple of things I've learned in this is that most politicians are fucking terrible at retail politics. Like the actual politics of like, hello, my name is Michael, I'd like to get your vote. People don't understand how to do that. Like just the everyday thing. And it's woeful because you'd think they'd be able to, but they just they just can't. Second thing is that when you vote in Australia, because of the way we have a preferential voting system, you have to number your candidates from 1 to however many. Yep. First preference is number 1 and last preference is number 200 if you vote in this way. People, there was a survey released today that said literally 50% of the population doesn't understand how to vote for the Senate. 50% of the voting population doesn't understand that.
I probably don't.
So what are they doing?
So what they're doing
or they're
is
just not putting...
They are following how to vote cards. So you go, I want to vote for the Liberal Party, so I'll take that card and I'll just fill it out how they want me to. I want to vote for the Labor Party.
They're just mimicking what's on the...
And they actually don't understand how any of it works, right?
Yeah.
So,
that's horrifying.
Yeah. So on the night, so this is another thing of this thing getting out of hand.
50%'s a lot.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm one of those 50%. I'm so ashamed of it, but it's true.
You don't vote, or you don't know how to vote?
No, I vote. I mean, I know how to vote. I think I know how to vote.
The House of Reps one is easy. The Senate one can be a bit tricky for people, right? So literally surveying says 50% of people don't understand, right? When they're given a ballot paper, they just go, oh, and their vote might be valid or invalid, but they don't know that they've voted. They're not confident they've voted the way they wanted to vote.
And they don't even know if it's valid.
Exactly.
I think most people are voting. Well, not most, but I think a large percentage of people are voting so they don't get a fine.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely,
really?
right?
Yeah.
So then on the day I released the video, again, not having registered a party and not having registered my candidacy yet, I got a text message from an unknown number, which is, again, I know this is going to set your conspiracy theory brain fucking off. A text message from an unknown number.
It's conspiracy fact, man.
But I'm not wearing my glasses. Hang on, let me get it up. But it's hang on. I'm going to show you this text so you can like authenticate that it's real. But okay. So Jen, Ben, I'll give you that.
Can I read it?
Yeah, just read it out.
All right. Hi, Michael. Would you like to have a conversation? Cheers. Glenn Drury. And then there's a link to
an ABC
Preference
article.
Whisperer, Glenn Drury, One Nation Micro-Party Deals.
Right, okay.
.com.
What?
So I don't know how this guy got my number, but this guy
That's
is...
creepy.
Would
That
you
is a bit
like to have a
creepy.
conversation? That is literally like the man behind the man behind the man behind the throne.
Totally, right? You know what I mean? This is like evil puppet
Worm
master
tongue.
shit. So this guy texted me.
Would you like to have a conversation?
Yeah, and
predatory.
I knew who he was because I work in the news.
Yeah.
But he's the guy who's got people elected before. So there was a guy called Ricky Muir who got elected with less than 1% of the vote in Victoria.
Yeah.
Darren Hinch is a talkback radio personality who's now a senator. There's like a bunch of micro-party senators or minor party senators, I should say, who have been elected over the past, like, say, 10 to 15 years. And more than half of them, I imagine, have gone through this guy, Glenn Drury.
Right.
Because he's like a maths nerd who knows how to get all the preference deals to align in a way.
So that you get in.
Yeah, right? And he just texted me being like, do you want to have a conversation? And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm just a guy who put out a stupid video, man. I don't know. So, I mean, of course, I texted him back being like, hello, yeah, sure. And we called.
Have you met this guy?
So on Monday this week, I had a conversation with him, right? So we met up, and I just want to make kind of funny jokes about this. So I filmed the whole thing. And, you know, we're going to put up a video about that. And it's literally just him saying to me, like, hey, this is how you do a preference deal. Here's who you have to talk to. Here's who you need to get in a room with. And basically, like...
it's like an Oscars campaign.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but because a lot of the minor parties, listen, the things like the Shooters and Fishers Party, the Animal Justice, you know, they are ideological parties that have very... real policies that they believe are the things that will make Australia a better place, right? Whether they're right or not. I have openly said, I don't fucking know anything. I'm an idiot, right? So when I walk into that preference...
appealing in 2019, man.
Well, when I walk into that preference deal thing, none of these preference deals are fucking legally binding. You don't sign any contracts. It's all handshakes, right? So I could walk in there and be like, hello, Liberal Party, Labor Party, Greens, One Nation, and just lie to them. I will put you all. I will put you second. I'll put you second. I'll put you second. You know, and they've never seen a candidate like me who's gone from zero to like this.
That's crazy.
And I mean, I can't imagine I would do this, but I could just go in and rat fuck them all. You know what I mean? I'd just go in there and be like, hello.
Like Survivor.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's a fucking game.
Yeah,
and then because half the people who are voting don't understand how to fucking vote in the Senate, and why would they? Because it's so complicated, they just get my how to vote thing and their how to vote and they just fill out the form, and everyone's like we're putting the one Asian party second. I mean, look, this is a theoretical thing. Because
if you get in, are you going to...
Oh my God.
Are you gonna? I can't believe I'm saying this. If you become a senator, are you gonna call bullshit?
I mean, I'm
like. Are you gonna can you be the guy that gets in there? Can you be the common man that gets in there and goes, "Hey, public, your suspicions are right. These people don't know what the fuck they're doing." Because that's what the world's hungry for at the moment. You know what I mean?
We talked to Hing a year ago, and we've upgraded Benny in that we went from my lounge room to Sean's studio.
Yeah.
But next year, it's going to be Hing and 3 bodyguards. You know what I mean? Like,
in 2020, we'll be doing this
Senator
from Canberra.
Hing.
I'll fly you into my office in the fucking capital.
A lot can happen in 12 months.
No, I mean, who the fuck knows, right? I mean, look, I think
will you take it seriously if you get in? Like, will you try and affect genuine change, or are you just going to treat the whole thing as like a giant fucking laugh?
No, so luckily, and I say this knowing my own limitations, luckily the Senate does very, very little actual legislation, right? What they do is advice and
You
consent.
sound like me when I was 19 getting a retail job. Oh, it's fine. I don't have to do very much.
Luckily, it means fuck all.
So what you've got to do as a senator, your job really is to read legislation the House passes and kind of make up your mind on that. So I don't have to really. I mean, look, there are technical things in which senators do draft like bills, but realistically, most of your job is like reading a bill that someone else has drafted, and you have staff to do that and help you with that as well. And you go, right,
Stuff.
yeah, how is this going to help people, right? How is this going to help people? How's
Staff
it
just
going
going
to
to be comics who are.
I mean, yeah, it'll be like, I don't know. Hey, man, do you want 10 minutes?
Man, I haven't
in the floor
headlined
of
in
the
a
Senate?
while.
I don't know.
Yeah, can you imagine? Dude.
The other fucking thing is, like, people don't realize this. Senators get paid $200,000 a year. On top of that, they get a free Commonwealth
Pension.
car. They get
Sick
the pension.
pension.
Well, the pensions have been cut back a tiny bit since there were all these scandals about it.
Yeah, but it's still huge.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you get like a living allowance. So depending on how big your state is, you can have multiple offices throughout your state, and you get like accommodation funding for that.
Crime.
You can do shit like fuck, man. You can do shit like you can do shit like be married to someone. I'm not married, but you could have a partner or a spouse, and then they could charge you rent to stay in their house, and then like that money's just going back into your
loopholes.
family.
It's
all that kind of shit. You know, you can accept money from people and don't have to declare it. It's so
Rich
fucked.
people are so good at hiding their money, aren't they?
The whole thing's fucking
If
rotten.
you win, you will have a massive fucking media profile. Because of the unusualness of the story. No, you just will.
Yeah.
As fucking Ricky Muir and Hinch
Jackie
did.
Lambie and
all of
Darren
those.
Hinch
Because
and all
it's
those
like,
people.
who are
Yeah.
these freaks in the fucking
Jackie
Senate?
Lambie. What are you worried about knowing things? Like,
Exactly. Yeah, well, because he's got morality and he's got a fucking conscience.
Well, that's going to be a problem going forward, okay? We have to get rid of that shit if you're serious.
If you get in, you gotta be the guy pulling back the curtain going, hey, everyone, I used to be you, and now I'm here with these guys, and it's fucking.
I think Ben's offering to work for you.
I mean, look, hey man, always looking for cheaper stuff. Yeah.
Because that's what, like that, like the
Do you
most.
want to be staff on
Oh,
one?
gladly. I need a job. My contract at fucking Nickelodeon didn't get renewed. No, seriously, like. One of the most of the many infinitely putrid things that Trump has done, but one of the most putrid things he's done is he has taken that discomfort and that rage that people have been feeling for decades, where that innate knowing that the system is corrupt and is gamed against you, and it's all full of craven, disgusting people.
Crooks.
And he that was his genius, was standing on that stage and saying, "Hey, I know these guys are crooked because I gave them money, and I'm not that guy." He drove a truck through that.
Yeah.
The horror of what he did is that he replaced it with a whole other much more fucking malignant form of insincerity. But the world in general is hungry for this.
There was, sorry, this is on that. There was a lecturer, and it's horrible, I don't remember his name, but if you Google like Trump and body language and like the campaigns and stuff, and Hillary, it all comes up. But they were saying the unique thing that he brought was he was the first politician to set his own rules.
Yep.
And the trouble with Hillary and everyone else competing was they would meet him with his rules instead of establishing their own thing.
Yep. Yeah.
So he'd create nicknames, and then other people were like, I'm going to play his game. And from the get-go, everyone else was playing his game and going to his level instead of...
I said that during the election.
Which is such a power play, right? It's like...
I said that during the election. He's going to win because he is the best at playing that. Like, it's like trying to argue with a 5-year-old. You can't.
Yeah, absolutely.
They call you a poo-poo head and it's the fucking game over. So there's nothing you can say because they're idiots and they don't fucking know anything.
But this is what I mean when I say, like, politicians generally are very bad at actual politics. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, totally.
There's very little showmanship. And especially now in the age of, I think that Trump has kind of changed that a lot. For better or worse, but prior to that, the age of the kind of larrikin politician is long gone because it's a liability.
Yeah,
you're gaff prone. Like someone like Paul Keating or Bob Hawke could not exist in 20-teens politics because they shoot their mouth off too much. Yeah,
well, the other thing is like you see the stuff that the political parties are putting out now as though it's meant to relate to people, right? There was
it's like a robot trying to relate to a human.
Totally, it's like someone's arrived from fucking Mars and is this what the teens find funny? So the Labor Party, for example,
what are kids laughing at?
Yeah, no, for real. The Labor Party put out a meme the other day. And it was.
I'm already uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than middle-aged people trying to get on with millennial culture.
Okay, get this right. It's Scott Morrison, right, the Prime Minister of Australia, and he's been photoshopped into the 1992 film Edward Scissorhands, right? So current, right? And then they've like edited the title themselves now, Scott Scissorhands, and it's like he's gonna cut all the things you love or whatever, and it's like what the fuck, like. Why are you doing a reference to this thing from like 30 years ago?
It hasn't been rebooted. No teenager knows who fucking Edward Scissorhands is. They don't know what that is.
They're just like the old people are writing weird shit again.
Yeah. It's like when our parents would refer to Casablanca. It's like, yeah, I know that's an old movie. That's all I know.
It's actually a great film.
It's a fucking great film. Don't get me wrong. As is Edward Scissorhands.
Can I just say a serious question now? Are your parents finally proud of you?
Oh man, this fucking rules, right? So
now that they have a senator son instead of a comedian son, so my mom would be like, "Fuck yeah!" Finally, I can tell our family.
When I told this is like the biggest fucking punchline of them all, and like classic Mr. and Mrs. Hing. When I told my parents, and like people who have never like heard my comedy before or don't know me, would just imagine whatever you think a fucking Chinese parent is. That's my fucking parents, right? So I said to my mum...
There's a broad spectrum of imaginings happening right now.
But like at the core of it, the sterility and that is...
Stoicism.
Yeah, that is my parents will fucking tea, right? The fucking biggest stereotype. So I said to them, like, when on the Thursday, I was like, hey guys, this thing's going really well. I'm thinking about legitimately running for Senate. And then I jokingly said to my mother, I hope I can count on your vote. And my mother, who birthed me from her fucking womb, said to me, oh, Michael, look, I don't know if I can vote for you. It's kind of a conflict of interest, isn't it? What do you mean? What do you mean it's a conflict of... And she was like, I was like so shocked by what she said.
Just be fucking proud of me.
I was like, what? And then she was like, well, I don't know if you're allowed to vote for your children, are you? I have to look it up. I'm like, what?
I have to say, that is the ultimate Chinese parent response.
Fucking bird. It's an absolute fucking bird.
That's like I told my mum I love you the other day. I was like, I love you, Mum. And she's like, thanks. And then walked off. That's the Hungarian equivalent.
Yeah. Brutal. Oh, God.
The love is implied in the thanks.
Oh, my mum, yeah. Chris always says my mum wants all her children around her. She just doesn't want to have to talk to us. Like, she wants us all in the house, like within arm's reach.
She wants to see you.
And then she just wants to read and have tea. So she can just see you're there and that's it.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of fucking kids to contend with,
It is
right?
a lot of kids.
Like 5 kids.
Anxious attachment kind of vibes,
yes,
you know what I mean?
She's like, just be near me and let me read.
Do you have policies?
Well, I said I don't. And I have like my own political beliefs and stuff, which I'm...
Mate, they're going to be the parties.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No. Here's the other crazy thing that's happened. As a joke, we put out a thing on Facebook saying like, hey, what should my fucking political slogan be? I don't know. And then we had I think at final count, it's like 1,500 people emailed us or commented or whatever and said, look, this is what your political slogan should be. And it ended up being Hings can only get better, which is like a fun pun.
That's great, yeah.
And then off the back of that, we were like, well, maybe we should just do this with policies. Like, we'll just crowdsource them and see what happens. And that was because that was like in the original video I said that, but it was just like a throwaway line.
That's actually a great idea.
And then since then we've had
democracy.
Democracy.
I think at this point it's still coming in, but we've had 2,500 people suggest policies, right? And some of them are things like free garlic bread and dumb shit. But like I haven't done the most recent count, but like maybe a couple of days ago when we counted them, it was probably like 2/3 were like serious, like, hey, we want action on climate change.
Yeah.
We want a federal ICAC into corruption. Like we want a royal commission into corruption for politicians. Like all this kind of stuff. And it's like people have. Like I don't want to say it's caught fire, but it's like people have taken the time.
No, I think it's fair to say it's
You're going to be
caught fire.
Australia's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
I think,
You're going to be
the
like a
young, sexy
lightning rod.
one.
Yeah.
Have a picture.
Seriously,
Instead
she
of
was
you
a bartender
dancing,
this time last year, and now she's the most famous politician on earth.
instead of being dancing, it'll be like when you were younger with dreads, and they'll be like, woo!
Yeah, people be like, we've leaked this photo of him in dreadlocks. And I'm like, dudes, I don't know.
I won't leak
Rasta
it,
times
I
were cool.
promise.
It's like 2004. I don't fucking know.
But that's awesome, though. I think it's because, like,
That's it's great.
you know, in the same way that Trump connected people who felt like they didn't have a voice in America, for better or worse, a lot of young people in Australia don't think that there's anyone representing them.
and it's true.
And
they
even
do not.
having
Totally
anyone
fucking true.
say, I want to know what you want.
Yeah.
It's just not something we associate with politics.
Because even when like the major parties do that, no one actually believes they're going to read anything.
Oh, no.
Right?
Of course not.
Authenticity. It's like, did you guys see that fucking Fox News town hall with Bernie Sanders?
I watched a bit of it, yeah.
Wasn't it fucking spectacular?
Because they were like, you're into the fucking
Yeah, you're in
lion's
the rat
den
trap now. You
We're going
fuck.
to get you.
Did you see this,
No.
Jay? So yeah, they like all the Democrats are like, we're not doing town halls or debates on Fox News. You fucking morons.
Because they
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
it's going to be like, they're just going to like get on stage and they're going to be like pull a lever and they're going to
Yeah.
deploy the slime or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's what they imagine it's going to be.
But instead of like
Slime!
instead of delivering your message to people who aren't going to vote for you, you know, just like bar them all together.
Why would you engage with
Well, it's the
someone
whole-
who
Exactly what
disagrees?
one of the reasons Hillary lost.
Well, it's the whole problem in don't discuss or debate things with people you don't agree with.
Exactly.
It
Well-
never ends well.
Well, and this is a big problem on the left at the moment. There's this real fucking thing of,
Yeah.
you know, like, oh, you don't agree with 100% of my fucking philosophy, then fuck you,
Or I can't
die.
engage with you. It's very dangerous.
Cancelled.
Yeah, cancelled. It's
Very
insufferable.
divisive and dangerous.
So they bring him in, and it's, you know, it's obviously geared. Like they open with like, oh, you know, we looked at your tax returns, and
Yeah,
you
of
made
course
nearly
it
$1
is.
million last year selling a book. And he's like, well, I'm not going to apologize for writing a best-selling book. Who would ask me to do that?
That's a great
Yeah, and
Sanders.
everyone's just like, yeah. Within like 2 minutes of this town hall, he's like leading them in call and responses, the audience. And they're
He's very charismatic.
they're Bernie, and like he's snapping at the host. They're like, they keep asking about his taxes, and he's like, oh, well, the thing I got to ask you is, you're going to get Donald Trump on here and ask him about his taxes. And he's just like an angry old man. And he's not
Yeah.
hiding the fact that he's pissed off.
Yeah.
And again, the crowd's cheering, and there's this real, like, again, it's that thing of like, that's what Trump brought in a much more
Totally.
perverted
Authenticity,
yeah.
I mean, it's not authenticity. It can
it's
seem.
it's the popularism, though. It's the
yeah,
same
it can
popularism.
seem from a certain angle like he's being authentic.
The
but really
language
it's-
is very everyman.
exactly.
Yeah, totally.
But people fucking, man, while you were talking before, I had this vision of just this like unchangeable chain of events just unfolding, and you becoming like this massively popular senator and then
Let's
prime
not get
minister in
ahead.
5 years. Can you imagine?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Because
Look, I'll vote one Asian. I mean,
I'll vote one Asian man.
can I
you
just say-
represent our generation.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, can I
One
just-
Asian.
What are you going to do on climate change?
Well, this is the thing, right? Like
It's getting real.
I want to fucking know.
people have
I wanna
asked
know
like
where
what we
my
can
vote's
do,
going.
right? And it's like stuff that's already been done. We need like at best we need a carbon tax or emissions trading scheme. You know, we need to invest in renewables. And the thing is, like Australia has. I mean, I'm talking like a fucking politician now, but it's
No,
like
that's
true.
fine. That's what you are. You want to ride that
Yeah,
wave.
that's what you are.
Australia has one of the best research and development, like education sectors in the world, right?
Yeah.
We churn out so many fucking brilliant scientists, and you know what happens? We don't fund the CSIRO, we don't fund places
Yeah,
to
they
keep
go
them there.
overseas.
And so they go to
Yes,
fucking
one Asian.
Harvard,
Yeah, they go
to
overseas.
Oxford, they go to Cambridge,
Fuck
and,
yeah.
and then they work in the fucking private sector, right? And they
Yes,
invent some
making filthy
incredible
drugs
thing.
and shit.
Yeah, and then we, like in Australia, we don't get any of those fucking benefits, even though we put them through primary school and high school and university, probably at a huge cost to the public.
I
right?
agree.
So
I
what
agree with
what
him.
we need to do is like provide opportunities for these people to stay in Australia, and the reason we want to do that is because fucking climate change, it's not going to be solved. Like honestly, climate change isn't going to be solved by trying to change people's lifestyles because people don't fucking stop driving, they don't stop flying, and they don't stop littering because people are fucking selfish and they're
Yeah.
busy and they
Yeah,
don't care.
and if they're poor or
Exactly,
if
and
they're
they don't have
lower
opportunities.
income, they don't have
Totally,
the time
and they
to
don't have the
remember
brain,
their
and they don't have the-
basket when they go to the shop.
Totally.
You know, like
when I've been fucking struggling in my life before, like working in the bottle shop and stuff, I didn't have time to like work out which thing the
see that?
recycling thing
From
goes
the
into.
bottle shop.
Yeah, from From the bottle
7
shop
years
to the
in the
prime ministership.
No,
Man,
but
it could be you.
Yeah, mate.
So the only way to solve climate change is through like research and development because you can't change 7 billion people's
No.
habits. What you can do,
You're the first person I've ever heard that says that, and it's so true.
but what you can do is like push wind technology, solar thermal, all that
Public
kind of shit.
transport, like the Hyperloop.
All that kind of shit, right? And look, that's look, humanity's fucked, right?
Yeah.
The ice caps are melting,
My
everything's fucked
fucking
anyway.
topic.
But
Let's
the only way, like, if we want, we need to gamble on this, which is like, how do we?
Well, what do we have to lose?
Yeah, I know.
It's jobs, it's
and we're a
infrastructure.
wealthy country. We're
All of
such
it.
a wealthy country. Like, there's countries that are like people think China's rolling in money. They're not. They've just invested the right way. People thought Japan was mental when they made the Shinkansen. Like, people, have you seen like docos on that where they're like, these idiots are trying to make a train?
thing. When you talk
like,
to
it's
people,
like, anyway.
And when
and-
you- Oh, sorry, no,
I was
you
just going to say one thing. The busiest air path for airplanes is Sydney to Melbourne.
Sydney to Melbourne.
Is
Yeah.
that true?
Yes, in the world.
In the
world.
And we don't
Sydney to
have
Melbourne.
high speed,
Yeah, because we don't have high-speed rail.
Is that really true?
Yes.
If you go to
Wow.
like all along the eastern seaboard of America, there's the Acela corridor that like is like huge. All through Japan, it's like
All through Asia.
There's magnetic rail. All through
through
China,
Korea,
like all that kind of stuff. In
everywhere.
Australia, we haven't built it because we. I mean, look. You look at the Sydney. You look at fucking Sydney, right? And the way they've done
Amazing.
trams.
Dude.
The two sets of trams we've got don't even like the gauge of the rails doesn't even match. So you can't even use
Yeah.
the same trams on them.
Yeah,
This is how
right.
And so
fucking dumb it is.
Sydney to Melbourne, the busiest air flight path in the world, you think they'd go environmentally?
Magnetic
We have the
hyperloop.
space, we have the money, we have the infrastructure, and they don't do it.
Well,
Well, and lots of people who need jobs.
You could be in Melbourne, but
That's-
even smaller than that. Like people say Sydney's too high density. We have so much fucking land. Like Parramatta.
Yeah.
The reason why people don't move to Parramatta is
'cause
because it takes them a fucking hour to get to the city.
Yeah.
Like everywhere else in the world, it's like
There's like-
anyway. See, I
yeah.
get ragey. I love
No.
trains.
No, this
and
is
I'm
good.
upset.
So
Hing,
I'm
this
voting
is
for
number
Hing.
one.
on the point of what you were saying though, Jen, when you talk to people and say to them, hey, this is my plan and these are the things I would like to do, right?
Yeah.
People go, oh, well, that's never going to happen. Oh, it's too difficult. Like when people
Yeah.
like, and like exactly what you were saying when like people are saying, oh, this Shinkansen's stupid. Like, can you
People
imagine
thought
when
it was mental.
When John F. Kennedy was like, I always imagine the guy at the back of the room. Like when John F. Kennedy was like, hey, we're going to put a man on the moon.
Why?
There's a guy at the back of the room being, and there's a guy back of the room being, oh, did you know the moon's actually really far away, dickhead? It's like, shut up.
You know
That's the point.
the leader, the head engineer, and I think it was like I'm going to get this wrong, but possibly the prime minister at the time. The two leaders who approved the Shinkansen being built got so much shit globally that they resigned. It was only after it was built and it was successful that they then were recognized because they were so abused. They were like, Japan is so backwards and it's so fucked up.
It's so
Like,
fucking Japanese as well that like you do
Yeah.
a great thing and still have to apologize and
Stop
resign.
to Harry
Well,
carry yourself.
they ended up coming back and getting the praise, but during the process, they ended up having to resign because people were like, "You're fucking idiots," and this is like not going to work. And now it's still the most.
You're in
like,
such a
successful
fucking good position because you've lived the last 10 years or plus
with people like us.
with degenerates living the disgraced life of a fucking comedian. So you're gaff proof. Like that's the
That
other
is
thing.
true.
You know what I
That
mean?
is true.
You don't have to be one of those fucking filthy politicians that's like every word being fed through a patch in my head
That's
to make
true.
sure it is not offensive.
And you know how to talk to people and deliver a message.
You got charisma,
A
you got
super
passion.
cut of me just calling the Queen a cunt or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's like
but
so much of
good.
that.
The only
that's
thing
the
I
other-
feel like you should have brought us a badge. You know what I mean? I need a badge.
Yeah, I need.
No,
I'm
he
trying
went
to,
into full campaign mode before. I liked it.
I'm
There's
trying-
a lot of
I'm very
fucking-
passionate about this.
No, I love it.
Vote for Hing.
If you were like whatever Grand Supreme Chancellor of Earth,
Yeah.
and like with one of your fingers, you could change one thing. Like, and it can be globally.
Just one thing, that's hard.
Just one thing. What's the one? I mean, you can do a backup and say or this.
Well,
but
okay, so
one or two.
in terms of a global thing, the
Yeah.
thing you can do that
You can-
is
like you're Emperor of Earth.
Sure. Look, the thing you can do to alleviate human suffering the most in the world right now, and the most cost-effective way to do it, is mosquito nets. So if you are able to go to sub-Saharan Africa and provide mosquito nets to people, it stops the the spread of malaria and other
Or
blood
St.
diseases.
Peter's. I got fucking bitten up the other day.
Yeah, all that yellow fever that you're dealing with.
It's the stuff that Bill Gates works on, and I'm talking in a global context.
Yeah.
That would save like literally tens of millions of lives if you could do that. Like that's like an easy thing to
we've
do.
got
That's
such
such a
different.
warm
Yeah,
response.
see, I'm
Mine was the
different. Mine's like let
opposite.
him go. And
Oh,
Yeah,
like-
what was yours?
Well-
I'll tell you mine after.
I'll let
Oh,
you
if
finish.
you
sorry,
just-
sorry,
yeah, no,
sorry.
because
mine's-
because one of the reasons why parts of the world. Well, I don't know. It's like once you alleviate like horrible poverty, which obviously is a result of things like colonialism and everything else,
Education.
all that kind of stuff. Once you begin to alleviate poverty,
Mineral theft.
then that gives people more of an opportunity to try and strive towards like the things that will help humanity survive, which is, the global catastrophe we all face right now is climate change, right? So the reason you want to save people's lives is to do that, or alternatively, you take a more direct route, and it's the thing I talked about before, which is like funding fucking research into fixing this planet. That's the big thing you need to do.
Yeah.
Ben, what's yours?
Nuke everything Western!
No.
No more children.
I've thought about
That'd be
this
your
a
first
lot.
one.
No, not no more children. My first one.
Antinatalist in Elwood.
No, I hate antinatalism. Have you heard that South African guy? Such a fucking emo goth loser. I wish I was never born. Ugh, shut up. You got born.
You are in
quick way to
control
end
of
that.
it. You were the one who can fix this. If you don't want to be here.
Have you heard of
If
this
it's that
guy?
much of a
I
fucking
can't remember his
problem.
name, but it's just shut up. You're alive now. Just fucking deal with it.
It's so bratty.
You think the rest of us haven't thought about fucking ending it?
Yeah. And really, it ain't that fucking long. Just fucking bunker down, cunt.
Actually, it's quicker the older you get.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing I would change with a snap of my fingers, can I say two?
Yeah.
All right. So
you made the rules of this game.
the first one would be all domestic livestock is sterilized and no more.
Okay, yeah.
You can eat a fucking steak, but it's going to fucking cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the worldwide protein is bug protein. So just
I agree with that. But
giant
that's the
silos.
future anyway.
That is the future.
That is the future.
And just giant silos of crickets and locusts. It's infinitely replenishable. It takes up no space, and it has more protein and
Norway
iron
and
gram for
Cambodia.
gram than
Thailand
beef
too.
and chicken. And then you reseed all of the old grazing land, cattle grazing lands, and reforest it.
I mean, I don't eat meat, so I'm into that idea.
I'm very into that idea.
Just like that, because, they I mean, I don't know if it's true. I'm probably quoting something on my ass, but I've heard if globally we stopped eating beef tomorrow, that would do more to reverse global warming than taking all the cars out of
Didn't
the
you see there
system.
was an anti thing against all of that in America that was like their whole angle was they're trying to take away your burgers.
Well, good. They should take away your fucking
because
burgers.
people are scared of meat. But
Did you ever
I
see-
agree with the bugs because a lot of research is
Bugs.
that. But you know what's interesting is chefs are now aware of that. So things like ants and
I
stuff
went to
are
a
becoming
restaurant
more on
in
the
New York
menu.
and I ate ant guacamole. It was fantastic.
See, fire ants and like crickets and it's a great source of
Did you ever see that
protein.
movie Fast Food Nation?
Yeah.
Do you remember that bit at the end where Bruce Willis is playing the big evil fucking meat magnate?
Oh, no, I
and
don't know what that is.
At
I
the
thought
end
it
of
was a
it,
doco.
he says something like, because like it's the big controversy that there's all this fecal matter in the McDonald's beef or the equivalent of whatever McDonald's is in the movie, and this character who's supposed to be like Lex Luthor, and he says, like, look, if Americans want to eat a fucking burger for 50 cents, they're gonna have to eat some shit. And I remember that being presented as a line that was like, what an evil man. And I'm sitting there going, he's 100% right. If you want to eat a 50-cent hamburger, shut up and eat your fecal matter and eat the
bleach.
fucking horror that you're fucking you're actually participating in. So it'd be the meat. And then on top of that, if I could do another thing, it would be no more Homo sapien outward expansion. If there's wilderness,
Well, I always-
no more encroaching.
right, like save the-
no
I
more.
think this is. I always like to talk to
nothing.
Ben about
You can
this.
have what you've got.
Yeah.
Build up.
Yeah.
Well,
No
I
more
find
out.
this shit so fascinating, and I always talk to Ben about it because people talk about the exploding population, but heaps of countries have a declining population, and I'm fascinated about which way we will go as humans. Like a
have
lot
to
of
decline.
Asia, a lot of America. Yeah, but it's interesting. I think it's really
I'm not saying
interesting.
it's not interesting.
Like Korea and Japan aren't replacing themselves, and they're not allowing a lot of immigration.
So
you can stay in Japan for 5 years if you're going to be a laborer, and then they'll kick you out, and you can't have a family with you.
Well, because there's a huge correlation between poverty and birth rates, right? Or not
Yes.
poverty,
Oh,
but it's like
can I say my thing? Because
Sure,
you
sure.
just reminded me.
Yeah.
So my thing would be education, in particular for young women, because there's a billion stats across the world that as soon as a woman is educated, she has less children, and she often moves up socioeconomically.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. So education, massive, and then I don't know what else. I think
Legalize weed, baby.
Yeah, man. Free cookies for everyone.
Dumbest thing. Sorry.
body and smokes for the Congo. No,
Actually, that is something that I would do. I'd pump marijuana smoke into all
course you fucking
old age homes. Just let them fucking have a nice time. So
They have a
nursing
nice
their
time.
they have a lovely time nursing their plastic baby dolls.
Look, I don't
and
know,
fucking
but
babbling.
I would say education globally, because there's so many problems. Even in like Australia, people have no idea. We have so many places where children are so far behind.
You wouldn't do anything for the environment. You got to do
Yeah,
something
of
for the
course I
environment.
would. But education, I believe, leads to things like looking after the environment. The more people know, the more people understand, the better citizens they are, generally speaking.
No time.
So no time, true, but
no time.
all shit ton of money going into education across the board to ensure at least people up to the age of fucking 12 have the same amount of education, which at the moment we don't, including just in Australia. And then environmentally, I don't know what I would do, because I would probably... Oh, this is a few things. I would chuck on what they do in Singapore and Australia, where the more children you have, the more expensive it gets.
Fuck yeah.
So if you have one child,
yeah.
all your education is free, which I am 100% for, as well as healthcare and everything else. The second child, you have to start paying for
Exponentially
more
more
things.
expensive.
Third child, and the same as Singapore, driving a car or having a license would be through the roof.
Yeah, I think
which maybe sounds a bit elitist, but it just
I think you'd have to
and public transport.
I think like you'd probably have to means test that. So it's like when you are, because you don't want it to become a regressive tax, right? Because you think of, for example, like 50 years ago or whatever, poor Irish Catholic families in Australia, right? It's like if they've got 7 kids because that's their faith and whatever, then and it's more expensive for them to live, then those younger kids aren't going to get an education, and that poverty cycle
Oh
continues.
no, I do it like China. From 2030,
Oh, I don't know if we should do
we're
anything like
doing
China.
a great Aussie leap forward. And
Great. Is there a purging in this?
Cannot
It's a
wait
great
to
Aussie
watch
leap.
the bodies pile up.
We're doing a great Aussie barbecue forward.
You know, comedians don't really survive many purges. Historically,
That's
they don't
not
make
true.
it.
My mum always said he was funny because, like, even in the camps and shit, you had to laugh.
He wasn't a professional comedian.
No, he was a shoemaker. That's what kept him alive.
Exactly. He could fucking resole the boots.
Yeah, do we need this cobbler? Or hey, don't. Look, I'm pretty good at shoes, but if you've heard my tight five, because guys,
I know. It's true.
He was heading straight for the ovens.
Tight
but that
five
tight
never
five.
saved anyone.
Fuck. Are you prepared for it if it actually happens?
I mean, no,
Like, no,
absolutely.
like,
I mean,
I'm prepared for it if it happens for you.
I mean,
I would be delighted.
I'd be delighted too.
I'd be delighted.
Vote one Asian.
it's just.
Dude.
I don't look. To be honest, I don't think I am prepared for it because it's kind of it's a long shot as all of this, is, right?
Yeah.
Because I started my campaign literally 10 or 12 days ago now.
Jackie
Has it only been?
Lambie.
Has it only been? Yeah,
It's been 12
whatever.
days,
Has it only
yeah.
been that? Okay. All right.
And the other thing I
So
wasn't.
when we spoke, it had only been like 3 or 4 days at that stage.
it happened the day before.
Whoa.
Yeah, and by that time, people were coming up to me in the street, kind of thing, which is still happening. Which is like, I don't know.
See, that's the. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
If you can ride the wave between now and when the election is,
It's
what is it,
exhausting,
like,
though.
It's
6
not
weeks?
long.
it's
No,
May 18th, so it's
no,
about
it's not
3
6 weeks. It's
but
like half that.
Yeah,
I was like, yeah,
3
3
weeks away
weeks.
now. When I was on the project most recently, they said to me, this is another thing that blew my mind. Lisa Wilkinson asked me, don't you feel bad because you've gotten into this quite cynically, saying you don't care and whatever?
Fuck her.
And well, hang on. I'd like to distance myself from those comments because she was quite nice to me.
I'm
She's a
kidding.
very lovely lady.
I'm just being aggressive so that we can vote for one Asian.
She said to me, don't you feel bad? Because there are people who mostly go into politics who are earnest about these things, and you're going there cynically. Like, don't you feel bad? Like, if you take a seat that could have been taken by someone who really wanted it,
Yeah.
like, don't you feel bad?
No,
And-
it's a fucking shark eat shark world.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
yeah, I'm with you.
I kind of thought, I was like, fuck, man, if you can't beat me, like, I've openly said, I have any policies, I don't know what I'm doing, I've done this for a week. If you lose to me, maybe you didn't deserve to win.
Exactly. Did you tell her that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
And what did she say to
100%
that?
agree.
She was like, they were like, the audience of the project were like, it was like, it didn't register
Yeah,
at all.
yeah,
Don't say
yeah,
anything.
yeah.
But the people on the panel were
But
like,
there's
yeah.
also something to be said for the person who doesn't
Shocking.
want the power, getting the power.
This is the other thing. You need
you know
someone
what I mean?
you need someone in there who's not going to vote for their own self-interest constantly.
Exactly.
Like these people, like
She's right. There,
I think the
there are
money-
people that really want it, but they want it for maybe a nefarious purpose or
Yeah.
maybe a purpose that is not aligned with the majority of what fucking Australians would want.
you know
It's
what?
a silly question.
You know what? You know what else is kind of fun? I was just thinking about that when you're saying, like, what do you want? It's like, even if this is like classic fucking comedian bullshit, that even if I became a senator in the Australian Federal Parliament, I'd still think to myself, oh, fuck, I wish I'd booked the gala.
You will book the gala. Welcome to the stage, Senator Michael Hing.
I'd still think to myself, fuck, I really wish I could have killed at the gala. I really wish I could have done that.
You could do shows with that. Who's that fucking piece of shit?
You'd sell out
who's
Melbourne.
Sam Dastiari or whatever.
Oh, that piece of shit, Sam Dastiari. Yeah, you could team up with Sam Dastiari. You and that guy.
I'm gonna try and hit up Sam to do a video about like fucking dodgy money because I think
and what not to do.
Yeah, because he knows all that shit. And
don't trade.
Yeah, maybe don't be a fucking traitor. I don't even believe in, honestly, I don't even believe in countries. Like, it's such a bullshit abstract concept. I don't even believe in fucking nationalism or any of it. But the guy's a fucking traitor. And then he fucking makes a career being a fucking, I'm full of shame. I'm a fucking, like, what? Have some fucking, you have children.
Back in the day,
fucking dignity.
He would have been killed. Do you know what I mean?
Dastiari?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, back in Rome, if you're a traitor, you'd get...
He was coming to open mic nights all the time, just hanging out at the back, wanting friends. Like, God, you are a punchline. Go away.
Right.
Fucking nothing.
And he's always been quite nice to me. I'd like to.
He's been nice
a traitor.
to me.
He's a fucking traitor.
He is a traitor.
He's a fucking traitor.
He would have.
And the fact that
He would have been killed in Rome.
This postmodern nightmare age where you can just do like the worst thing ever and then Hasselhoff it, just come out and be like, yeah, I'm a piece of shit, everybody. And everyone's like, oh, bravo, he's so self-aware. Oh, it's so good how self-aware he is. Yeah, he knows he's a piece of shit. So
doesn't take himself too seriously.
I'll get fucked. And then he goes on, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here, and talks about how hard his life is and he's so human. Ugh. What a nightmarish planet. No, it's good. It's a good.
Cannot wait to be. If we're doing this next year from my senatorial office, I cannot wait to be doing this again in 5 years when I've been disgraced for accepting some sort of fucking bribes from China.
You've got some shit to ask for, Michael Hing.
Held to account by Ben Elwood and
Where's my train?
Yeah, where's my high-speed magnetic rail,
my
you
Hyperloop?
fucking liar?
Go call Elon.
It's more complicated than you thought, huh? That midnight oil guy thought he could change shit and he couldn't do nothing.
Why are people still eating cows? Sort it out.
Yeah, Hing, why haven't you shut down the international beef trade? That was actually quite funny. It was one of the it's just like people's minds. There's no limit to their imagination and what they want. When I said to them, hey, what policy should I campaign on? Someone commented, could you please dismantle the global military complex that begins with America and ends. And I was like, yeah, dude, I'll do that for my 1 Senate seat.
Yeah.
Let me chat with America and North Korea. And
I'll call up Donald Trump and be like, hey, I'm a comedian who got elected to the Senate.
Kennedy suggested that he was going to dismantle the military-industrial complex, and a week later his head exploded.
Yeah.
Fuck. All right, so we're wrapping it up, but do you have any final, like, who are you? What are you fucking offering
How
the
can
Australian
people vote for you?
Like I said, it all...
What's your final pitch?
It literally depends on if the Australian National Commission calls me tomorrow and says, hey, you can't do this.
Oh, you have to be.
They cannot do that. There's been... If they do, I call it bullshit, and they're just trying to keep him out because he's a powerful one Asian party.
Yeah, no,
I think how many senators have we had who've had dual citizenship, who've done fucking dodgy shit, and they've been in there for ages. To suggest that they're like, oh no, we check it every time, it's just balls.
No, of course it is. Are you going to campaign? If say everything goes well tomorrow, are you going to campaign?
You should.
Yeah, I think, I want to be a senator. And I've thought about this a lot. And I
want
think,
to be a senator.
I think
a week ago, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, man.
Look at us. We've known each other for 10 years. Ben and I are the same. You're a senator. This is great.
No. I want to say, I think, fuck. I honestly don't. There are so many things that make me think, I don't want to do this, and this is insane, and this is terrible. But,
that's why you got to do it.
In my deepest heart of hearts, I think it'd be pretty, at the very least, it'd be pretty funny.
And if nothing else, you get a book deal out of it.
And you get a pension. Sick pension.
Yeah, great comedy festival show in 2020.
Great comedy festival show. Award. Yeah, maybe not award-winning, but nominated.
No,
at least.
Maybe not.
Take that, James Acaster.
Seriously, if everything goes well tomorrow, I'm calling it. I reckon you're going to become a senator. I was right about Trump a year before. I spent a year of everyone laughing in my face. Going, you're a fucking idiot. I was fucking right. I knew it. I can sense the culture. I reckon you'll fucking get it.
Well, I'll tell you now. I've ordered 25 more T-shirts to be made. So
yes,
I want one. Pass you guys out some as well.
Hell yes. I'll be wearing it with pride. One Asian party.
And then if this goes well, then it's not really campaigning is honestly, campaigning is like not the biggest thing for me to
Open
do.
mic nights,
doing
man.
gigs.
I mean, there's heaps of gigs.
It's
Do a set.
It's literally those preference deals. Like if I go and somehow work out some favorable preference deals with people, that's the thing that swings it. Yeah.
You fucking Mackie.
Holy
And
shit.
this is what I mean. This is what I mean when it's like people don't even know this is how it works. But that's more impactful than me knocking on doors. Because this isn't about like my local electorate. This is about the state. And I can't spend time. I probably don't have time to go to Tamworth and everywhere else. But
No.
I can, you know.
Why would you want to?
Will you be the guy?
I mean, really.
Can you be the
my
guy?
Sorry.
Can you be the guy that goes in there and fucking? I'm not saying blows it
Look,
up from the inside, but
Because that would be a terrorist act.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, but
No, yeah,
like the
yeah.
guy that, like a true voice of the people.
Yeah, I
Man, Hing, if you do that, Ben's so pumped, he'll blow you. Like,
Dude,
look
I
at
would
him.
fucking-
Like, he's so
honestly,
excited.
Like I already,
There's such an incentive not to do it.
I already have a lot of love
Like,
in my heart
Ben
for
is-
you.
is, like,
but you will,
so excited.
No, seriously, because it's my dream. It's my. I'm not saying my personal dream, but it's my
Yeah.
dream for someone that I know that their morality is good and that they're a decent person and you know their heart's in the right place to go into the fucking lion's den and call bullshit.
I mean, you
I
guys-
think it's one of the most powerful things you can do.
You guys have known me for, I don't know, what?
A long time.
15 years or something?
Yeah,
10,
we've known
15
each other
years?
for ages.
For ages,
12
right?
years.
And
I met you in 2007.
Fuck, man, how do you even remember that?
Crazy.
Okay, so
Well,
I
it was
would
my
have met
first
you
comedy
before
festival,
that.
and we sat.
2004, 2005, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
We were
yeah.
at uni. And, you know,
Oh my gosh,
I think,
yeah.
honestly, if I'm trying to answer your question honestly, it's like, I am someone who, like we said at the start, I'm very scared. You know, I'm a very fearful person. But when push comes to shove, I think you've seen probably my comedy and elsewhere that's like,
You man up.
no, man up, but like I feel the only thing that overpowers my fear is my guilt. Honestly,
Yes.
like literally the only thing,
Yes.
like I'm scared all the time.
Yeah.
But the thing that really drives me is like is like the fucking guilt of missing out. Like I was saying, like, of opportunities of letting people down.
It's
right?
your teacher going,
Yeah, exactly.
Go and kick the ball.
Get
and
out of
you'll
the special class,
You know what I
you
mean?
dumb
This is,
fuck.
yeah, this is the exact same thing,
Go
right?
hit your head on the wall. Like, that's what it is.
And it comes back to that. It's like if I got in, I think it would be really daunting to have to go like, hey, this is all fucked and you're all fucking a bunch of rats and dogs and whatever. But like, I know this is like such a earnest way to end it. But
No,
it's
it's
like,
not. Say it.
But it's like, you know, people like you, people who have like gotten in contact with me, and that they would be expecting me to be on the, hey, this is fucking bullshit, right? And I think that like that honestly, I'm not saying I'm a moral or good person. I'm just saying honestly, the guilt of not doing that would override my fear of doing that. it's basically which cowardly thing will motivate me to act.
Well, look, more young people are voting now or registering to vote than ever before.
Yeah.
So, and you know, I can't really think of anyone off the top of my head who speaks to them more, apart from Pauline, obviously. But I think
Hinch.
you know. Oh yes, of course.
Mark Latham.
But I think you know, like it's a very exciting time.
Oh, you're all very kind.
Dude, like
No one says that. Thank you.
Oh my god, I have such wonderful visions.
Look at this.
of-
We'll
of-
wear the shirts.
No, can you imagine? Can you
flyer.
imagine a dear friend in the fucking
My family will vote for you. There's a lot of them.
in amongst those just scum, just awful
Also,
psychopaths.
you'll get the one wogs. You'll get my families. Like, you totally will, because there's no one who just
I'll
kinda
get my
calls
mum.
it.
My mum listens to this
You'll get the
podcast.
one
Mum will
Jews.
vote for fucking Hing.
You'll get Benny's Jews and my wogs. That's a huge amount of
Jews-
people.
Jews are
Jews and
coalition.
Chinese people historically don't get along very
Really?
well. Not so
I
much.
think wogs are kind of like, we get it.
Really?
Yeah.
Model minorities.
Well, minorities and our majorities, so you're in luck.
Yeah.
True. Fucking hell.
Where can people find Michael Hing on the internet?
Wait, how can people vote for One Asian?
Can I say, just if you're still listening to this, please go to oneasianparty.com, which is, again, we made a website. Again, we thought it was a joke, and now this has gone too far.
OneAsianParty.com.
Yeah, go there and you can register, like, you know, your details and stuff, and just let us know, like, what policies you want to hear. Like, I'm making my way through reading everything, and
Amazing.
And yeah, Facebook, it's just Michael Hing, and @Hing is on Twitter, and just you can go and see all the fucking dumb shit I've put up, and it's it's a joke, and it's gotten out of hand, and I'm scared.
It's not a joke anymore.
That's the greatest campaign speech I've ever heard, because that's really the truth of all
That's right.
campaigns for leadership. It's a joke that's
Exactly.
gotten out of hand, and if Trump had said that, the night he won, because that's the fucking truth.
Exactly.
Did you see that
Fuck
cunt's
that.
face when he
Yeah.
fucking
He was
walked
like,
out on
"What
that
the
stage?
fuck?"
He did not want that job.
My friend Ben Jenkins, who I do Free to a Good Home with, said to me the other day, he was like, hey, the only more effective like slogan you could go with right now is, I don't want to do this. My friends are forcing me to do it. Please don't vote for me. He's like, honestly, the only thing that would be more appealing to this is Australia putting you into the Senate as a prank. That is the only.
Oh, people have to go vote for you.
Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I'm on the ballot paper. Please do vote for me. If I don't make it that far, don't waste your vote.
It's been a fantastic story, though.
It's been awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, Michael Hing.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, Ben.
Thank
It's
you,
been so fun
Michael.
being here.
Thank you to Young Henrys who've sponsored this podcast with their delicious beer. If you want to contact us, it's at OinkTimePod on Twitter. What? Ben's looking at me bad.
I'm really tired and I've had 2 beers.
It's
I'm
fine.
pretty
We're
drunk.
in Sean, our wonderful producer's awesome new studio. Bit of a sauna, but it's healthy for you. So thank you, pod listeners.
Thank
Listen.
you, Oinkers.
5 stars. And
Thanks,
don't
mates.
forget, oneasianparty.com.
Thanks, dudes.
That was sick.